everybody, Levi Clay here, and I'm back again to do a new series, a very exciting series, tentatively titled Mandates with Guitar Greats. And the guitar great that I'm going to introduce you to today is somebody that hopefully you've been introduced to in recent months or the last year anyway, because I put a video up of him on my transcription channel, and the best part, 3 million people saw it, so he's definitely relevant. He's one of my all-time favourite players, massive inspiration on me. He has so much great material that's just, you just need to go out there and find it. So I'd like to welcome and introduce everybody to Mr. Scotty Anderson. Say hello, Scotty.
Hey, say hello, and how you doing, Levi? I'm a huge fan of you also.
Oh, you are too kind. You're far too kind.
I appreciate what you do for people and everything, and I think you're doing a really good service and information. As the good Lord said, freely receive, freely give.
Absolutely. Let's just talk about you, because there are obviously people are going to be unfamiliar with who you are and where you're from, and your playing style, of course. Why don't you tell us where you grew up and your early influences and things like that, and we'll go from there.
Well, okay. Start with the latter. My earliest influences were my family. They all played. My uncle was a thumb style player like Merle Travis and Chet Atkins, with a rockabilly type flair to it. My dad was a good swing style player who also played fiddle. And in the process, through osmosis, I came in contact with Chet Atkins, Merle, Jimmy Bryant, and a lot of big band music. My dad bought a hi-fi set back in the late 50s, and it was stocked with all kinds of 48s and 45s and 38s of Sinatra and big band music. So I got a lot of ideals from that. And another thing that caught my attention was, like, in the mid to late 60s and some of these corny westerns, they would have some of the best guitar playing, like a fight scene or a horse scene or something like that. Years later, doing NAMM shows and stuff, I found out that a lot of that was Howard Roberts and Tommy Tedesco and guys like that, that was studio cats out and around. Probably Capitol Records probably did most of it. James Burton, but those were the cats that could sit down and read it as fast as they could play.
So on the note, you said your family musical, and actually before we started filming, I embarrassed myself by trying to play Bud's Bounce. Well, I can't remember how to play it, but and you played me both the way you originally played that on record, but you also said that your uncle used to play it, right?
Right. He played in the key that Buddy Emmons recorded it in, and he actually knew Buddy Emmons many years ago in the late 50s. Buddy Emmons, would you like for me to play it?
I would love you to play it, yeah.
So he cut it. Everything was super bright back in that day because they wanted you to play loud and bright. So
Oh, I actually feel bad for people watching that, because while you're playing that, I'm sat here just jaw on the floor. Can't believe what I'm seeing.
Now,
Now, when you play like that, there's a definite pedal steel influence to your playing. And actually, I think, because I love pedal steel, I have a pedal steel upstairs and I can't play it for shit.
lots of scales from pedal steel, yeah.
Yeah, so I hear that influence in your playing. Like, I think my favorite thing you've ever recorded was on your second record. You did Django's Castle. We did it on the first and second, but that in particular, the second version. In fact, I'll probably cut some of that in so people can hear it. There, but the thing that fascinated me in your playing style was your chordal work, and the chord voicings that you played very much seemed to be inspired by pedal steel players. So
a lot of it, yes.
Did you pick that up from stealing things from records, or do you know a lot of pedal steel players? Did they show you things?
Actually, most of the pedal steel stuff came around for me, and as a teenager, starting out playing in bars. When you're playing like a 3-piece band situation, and instead of a straight chord, you want to hit something. Let's say you're doing a
yeah,
and that's just an E. But it's a lot of times it's finger replacement, how you get into it. So that's what I do is I play and I think, how can I fill that hole up a little wide, to stretch it out.
Yeah.
And steel guitar was a big, guitar for a long time was in the background.
Yep.
You'd have sensational kickoffs on songs and stuff. But by and large, it was in country music. It was a steel guitar who had the tone and a lot of the fancier stuff on there. And my uncle, who I mentioned earlier, Dillard Anderson, was, I guess, one of the first guys around this part of the country to play steel guitar stuff on lead guitar. Because he put, like James Burton did, he put like banjo strings on the first few strings, and then would buy a regular set of strings and string it up that way, where he could get. When I stepped back in the early '60s,
yeah,
and hitting all kinds of chords, steel guitar chords like.
The thing that I'd ask there then, so you say it's your uncle Dillard Anderson.
Oh God, he was a fabulous player. He's no longer with us, but he was my dad's youngest brother. Dad was, his thing would have been to have played like swing guitar. He had a lick when he got out of World War II that he played on guitar. He found one that had a cutaway, an Epiphone, I think it was, and he would do these licks. Right out of the Tommy Dorsey Boogie. That's where later on I cut that. I called it Boog's Boogie because they called him Boog because he played a lot of boogie woogie stuff.
So you did something cool in there. Let's jump to that because it ties in with the pedal steel influence that we were talking about, and your particular recording of Bud's Bounce. So you play obviously those chord voicings where you have the bends on the G string, which is obviously a pedal steel thing, right?
I came into that one kind of later on in pulling songs off of records. For the longest time, I heard that, and I thought it was maybe a string bender, because doing trade shows, I remember they had the, who was it demonstrating the big, long, cumbersome thing, and you move your leg. And
that was Phil Bow? No?
Well, Phil Ball had what was called a gizmotron. He had pedals where he could bend any of the six. And this hip shop booth is where you'd run into everybody.
Yeah.
That's where I seen what was the cat with the Telecasters, the big guy.
Oh, Will Ray.
Ray.
Yeah.
Will Ray was selling like rings, pinky rings, and stuff that he would do slides on either hand.
Right.
And Jerry Donahue, who probably didn't need anything other than he's bent more strings than anybody I've ever seen. Jerry Donahue, or what's his name? John Jurgens.
Yep.
Yeah. All those guys I knew before they were the Telecasters.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. The thing about all this stuff is, let's say, for instance, that you're kicking off a ballad.
Yep. So that drives me crazy and leads me into a really interesting question. And that would be, so your chord vocabulary it really is just phenomenal. I thoroughly enjoy it. I watch you play and you just pull out all these tricks that I don't hear anyone else do. How much knowledge is there in your guitar learning history? Did you study a lot? Was there a lot of theory books and things like that, or?
No, not basically. I do have a brother that graduated from CCM, Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. He tried to sit down with me and teach me some theory, and I just didn't have time for it because I was working so much, traveling and stuff. And for what I was doing, I really didn't see the necessity of it. But I wished I would have sat down and took the time to do it. It is time consuming.
Yeah.
And I would love to know how to do it, but at this late game, like I'm 63 years old, it's all I can do to maintain what little bit of technique I have.
All right, well, let's talk about technique then, because when it comes to technique, you have the one thing that I've never seen anybody else ever do, and we all know what it is. It's that insane double stop harmony thing. Where and why did you develop that?
I just winked at my wife when you said that. I talk all the time, you need to practice your guitar. Sure you ain't sliding a little bit. And I said, well, sure I am. I'm not 33 anymore.
So where did that come from? Why and how did you start developing that?
Once again, it's back to the bar rooms to...
he practiced 8 hours a day.
There was a time when I'd come home from the bar and sit up all night and play.
Yeah.
And that's 70s. And then 80s, I had the opportunity to do the trade shows, which threw me into more of an instrumental type mentality, which I'd already had the instrumental thing from being a teenager. The Chet and stuff. What I had to do when I first started playing bars was kind of digress, because I would want to play the melody, being, like a soloist type player, and the singer was singing the melody. So I had to learn how to play pockets more. And it's a totally different thing. It really is. It's a fun thing to do once you get into it. You can build it up, you can have dynamics and the whole thing. But I got more into doing the instrumental thing throughout most of the 80s. I did maintain a regular playing job on the weekend. But it was just, for me, I hate to say it, but it's more or less trial and error. I mean, you wouldn't go so far out on the limb to break the limb off. If you'd worked on something and you thought you had it down, you finally got the nerve to try it. And it's just playing it 1,000 times over again.
The interesting thing about you saying that is your technique has been out in the scene now for decades, and yet nobody has gone and learned what you do and put in the thousands of hours to do it even nearly as fluently as you do it. The double stop, the soloing thing. Could you, for people that are unfamiliar with that double stop soloing thing, could you maybe just show us a couple of licks?
Okay, I'm going to put it in the frame of a song. There's also one my dad used to play. It's called Panhandle Rag.
So that last lick you played, not that one, the melodic, that type thing. Could you play that for us slowly?
Okay, I see.
That part. That just before, what I'm trying to get you to isolate and play real slowly for us is the sorts of lines that you do where you're playing. You know those types of lines? Could you do like real slow? Just so people can look at your the way you use the thumb pick to do that kind of thing.
You want to go back to the key of E.
Okay.
Right?
Well, whatever you
G,
want.
wanted to do it in G. The one thing that you may take away from this that your viewers may want to do is if you're in G, here's a nice little thing coming back from D to G, or in reverse.
Yeah. The thing that people miss about what you're doing there, the beautiful thing is, well, yeah, it's the fact that there's two notes. People just assume that maybe you're using a harmonizer pedal, but no, you're literally playing. You predate the harmonizer pedal. You are the human harmonizer. And that, to me, is just, it's crazy. And for any of my viewers out there that want to try and get this stuff down, like, there's the challenge, guys. If you want to start developing this technique that Scotty does, where he's using the pick to pick a note on the, I'm trying to move out of the way, a pick to pick a note on the G string, and then he's hit the nail of the index finger to play two notes. I can do it on a downstroke, but I can't get it on the upstroke. Which,
a lot of times, if you're coming into it, sliding or coming up one fret short, you want the upstroke. Let's just use like a little slide, like.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's upstroke, downstroke, up. So this song right here was a good example of how you play three.
Now, I need to draw the viewer's attention to what you just witnessed there, because Scotty talked about if you want to play three notes, he's playing triple stops there. He's playing three notes at the same time and soloing with them. Like, it baffles the mind how that's possible, and you just simply need to check his music out to know that kind of stuff. So I want to promote something for you now, because obviously one of the reasons you wanted to hook up on Skype is because you were looking at ways of promoting the fact that you do Skype lessons, right?
Exactly, Skype or Zoom.
So if anybody out there is watching and they want to hook up with Scotty for a Skype lesson, it's a rare opportunity to be able to sit down with somebody that has that level of, it's not just technique, because like I say, it's not really the technique that blows me away with your music, Scotty. It's the musicality, it's the chord voicings and all of that. It's when you play solo guitar that you're just very complete. When you're doing the Chet thumb picking thing, they talk about the evolution of the thumb picking style, Merle moving through to Chet and then on to Jerry, and then you look at guys like Buster B. Jones, who I know Chet was a huge fan of, but you're like a step further than that. It's just absolutely crazy. So I assume people can contact you via your website if they want to book Skype lessons?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's a gospel song. It's got a lot of feel to it in thumb style.
So if somebody was going to come to you for a Skype lesson and they wanted to look at developing that alternating bass, the thumb style, the Mel Travis type thing, what would be the first thing that you'd recommend to them? What would you say to them?
I would say to, in other words, we'll pick a very easy song like the Johnny Cash song. So what we have to do is to figure out that most of the time you are starting on the root string when you play a chord. So look at the Chet version of it's a few beats short of that double beat on that string. So what I call that is one that's not exactly on the beat is off beat. See how I came off the beat?
Yep.
This is how I go about teaching that. And once they get that down, then we'll go on to more complicated pieces like walking bass lines.
I'm being hassled.
Oh, what kind is it?
These are little Maltese. I've got 3 of the little things kicking around, and they've
like
just
a Maltese falcon.
Yeah, beautiful. So the thing I like about that is I reviewed your Hot Licks video for people recently, and I love that video. It's great, obviously. But the comment I always make about it is you don't come across as a teacher in it. You come across like you just sat down in front of the camera and you showed them some of the stuff that you can do. But actually what you've demonstrated there for people that are considering Skype lessons is you actually have a system in place, don't you? You've got teaching the thumb part, melodies on the beat, and then the syncopation. So there is a system in place. Like you feel confident that you could teach that kind of Travis picking style to people in the way that you approach it.
What I tried to do is to fuse as many ideals together without making it a conflicting type thing to where it would sound like, well, he's not using a song just to show how many tricks or licks or things that he can put, or chord modulations or substitutions or anything. You try to use your ideals, and sometimes the ideals come from maybe playing it in a different key.
Right.
You get lots of ideals from transposing keys and things like that. So it gets pretty deep as far as I could play songs, like Cherokee, real fast bass line stuff like, and or you could play like. Well, you can play it up. I like this lick here.
Bass lines off is just
I
silly.
used to a lot of that stuff like a.
Right, so last questions then. Telecasters.
Telecaster.
Yeah.
You know, I had so many guitars before I landed with the Telecaster. Most of the 70s playing was Les Paul.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I love the Les Paul and wanted to get a hold of a Stratocaster prior to that. And I bought a new one like it. Started playing up here when I was about 19. Couldn't pay for it, had to give it back. And I met my lovely wife the next year, and she bought me a Les Paul, and I played it for many, many, many years. Had a couple, 2 or 3 of them, and then the stylistic changes kind of come around in like the late 70s and early 80s. So I needed that, and I still love Les Pauls, like 335s, all those Gibson guitars. You started hearing this kind of a or just you just couldn't get that sound
Sure.
out of Les Paul. I mean, you know, it's just a. It was so I mean, I made the transition, but I kept going back and forth for a few years from Les Paul to Telecaster until I modified the guitar and put. This is the first Telecaster that I bought, and this was back in the 81, I think it was. And I put like a mini humbucker here, and I had these 2 pickups, which have been changed since then, that wore out, and these are Seymour Duncans. But I mean, so I could get more of a pop on the Strat sound.
And do you have that wired up with a 5-way switch?
What I've got here is a thing, a technique that I came up with. That a buddy of mine was a machine type guy, and it's a two-way switch, and then a three-way switch.
Okay. Can you just lift that guitar up a bit?
So
Yeah.
how,
Yeah. Okay.
how it works here is, look at, this is bass, this is treble.
Okay.
Okay, well, bass section. This is just this pickup when this is all the way up.
Okay.
In the middle, it's in phase together with this.
Right.
Like a. And when it's down, it's more of a bass Stratocaster type sound.
Okay.
And when it's up here, when this is flipped to the treble, it's just the treble.
Okay.
And here is an interesting thing for like older Chet type sounds, like a.
Oh wow.
This is these two now together out of phase.
Okay.
Or for like something like. You know, and when it's down, it's these two.
Yep.
So what in a sense you have is 3 selections of bass, 3 selections of treble.
So yeah, you've essentially wired yourself up with like a 6-way selector. You've got 6 different sounds.
What it keeps you from doing is to have a push out pot or
Yep.
pop out pot.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. So, you know, that's more or less like a sound.
Okay. Okay, well, what we'll do then, just to close up, is we'll play a quick game, because it's always fun to see your reactions to this. I'm just going to say, just very quickly, some guitars or some art. I'll just say some words, some artists' names, maybe Danny Gatton, and I just want your quick, in a couple of sentences, just give me the first thing that pops into your head, okay?
All right.
So let's start with Danny Gatton.
Genius.
Yeah? Big fan? Were you a big fan of Danny?
I was. I got introduced to him late. I wasn't aware of him in the '70s. I was. Let's see. In about the middle '80s, we lived in another place, and I played a real late night gig and drank too much. And the next day, I'm laying on the couch with a hangover, and I see Roger Miller and this guitar player behind him, and I just thought, wow, what was that? And they did roll some credits, and it was Danny Gatton. So right. I did get real familiarized with Danny from trade shows and Thumbs Carlisle, James Burton, all those guys. Danny would call me periodically, and we talk, and it's always, you know, you got a beer? I said, yeah, I'll get one. He said, well, you know, and he said, you know, the music business, it's kind of a downer in a way, you know,
Yeah.
because he had been up, and now he was at a position to where it was like he had to let some of his band members go and stuff, and he wasn't very happy. And then the Big Mo record thing happened for him. He was kind of up for that, and we were going to do a project together. And soon after that, he told me, he said, you know, if I had my way, I'd just work on my cars and play the Moose Lodge.
Yeah.
You know, and total shock. He was very good at masking it.
Yeah.
But anyway, he knew more about licks and who played them, what kind of guitar they played them on.
Wow.
He was a master at that.
Okay, well, we got a little bit off track with that one. We'll do short answers then. Okay. Now, it's just because I'm such a Danny Gatton fan, you know, I had to know what your thoughts were on Danny. So, Jimmy Bryant.
Innovative.
Chet Atkins.
Finger on the pulse of the people.
Jerry Reed.
Scary.
I'm gonna push further on that one. Tell me more, because Jerry's probably my all-time favorite player.
Jerry used alternate tunings, and he had written songs way back here in the late 50s, early 60s that country singers recorded. Right off the top of my head, I don't remember what they were, but he'd had some run-ins back and forth in Nashville, and he finally got that rhythmic thing going on behind him with the Congo drums, and it was like, to me, it was like beatnik jazz country type, you know, and he was just a great songwriter, great singer. You know, by talking about Jimmy Bryant innovative, Jimmy Bryant did the 12-string tuning thirds for like tunes like Stratosphere.
Right. I didn't know that.
When he hit one string, he's hitting two.
Right. Oh, okay.
So that's what I meant by innovative. Chet, I've played popular songs before, had similar arrangements to them, and never hear Chet's, and then Chet would come out with it, and it would be similar to mine, but just much better. That's all.
Okay, Hank Garland.
Hank Garland. Fluid.
Yeah. Brent Mason.
Brent Mason. Brent Mason would be what I would consider solid. Real solid.
Albert Lee.
Oh, God, love that guy. Tasteful.
Yeah.
Very tasteful.
Okay. Jazz.
Jazz?
Yeah.
I like jazz when it didn't sound like one guy played it all. I don't mind a few string rattles. I don't mind, a few flaws here and there. I want to hear the thing that they were thinking. I'll take all the bruises with it. Everything else. It sounds too sterile to me right now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So you like the older jazz?
I like the stuff that you can actually hear the records crack and pop and everything. I mean, and jazz to me would have been something like Wes Montgomery and Jimmy Smith playing together.
Okay. Western swing.
Western swing. Underestimated music because it was string versus horns. And some of the best melodic playing out of any genre of music would have been Western swing, because it appeals to more people when it's presented. Sleep at the Wheel, you've got to love those guys. You know, there's so many people that try to play it. Very few can really play it. I don't really care for going back and trying to look like you're in the 40s playing Western swing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind any kind of new revelation in music, whether it be bluegrass, anything else. I mean, you know, it has to evolve or it will dissolve.
Yeah. Buddy Emmons.
Oh, favorite. Well, I hate to use the same word again. Visionary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Visionary.
Speedy
Because
West.
Speedy West. Oh, God. Well, now I'm thinking Jimmy Bryant, Speedy West, but Speedy West, I wish somebody would come back out with that style that needs to be, I'll put it like this, needs to be heard again. Needs to be heard and played like that again.
Okay, now we're going to get into where your opinions maybe show your tastes. Vince Gill.
Vince Gill. Nobody could have backed Vince Gill like Vince Gill. Tone. Well, first thing I think about, tone and taste.
Brad Paisley.
Scary dude, man. I mean, just the height of the Nashville newer sounding guitar picking.
Well, that's exactly the next thing. The new Nashville sound. The music coming out of Nashville today. How do you feel about that?
No, don't ask me that now.
Oh, you're allowed to be negative. Like, that's my thing on YouTube. I shout about things.
Oh, you know what? I appreciate any good guitar playing.
Sure.
The only thing gets me is some of the stuff sounds predictable. You know, a player that we didn't talk about that's not doing too well right now is Leon Rhodes.
Yep.
Who was with the Texas Troubadours. Some of this stuff right now, to me, if they would slide some of these flowing lines in there, I see what they're doing. They're in a system. They're playing a system of notes that fit into this certain section between the singer. And to me, some of it sounds hacked up. You got 5 seconds of fiddle, 5 seconds of this, and stuff. And I know that they're all great musicians. They're all great musicians. I can't knock them. I don't envy them on what they have to do.
Sure. Last one then. Heavy metal.
Heavy metal. Always appreciated the technique. First time I heard Eddie Van Halen, somebody played it over telephone, and I said, "Shit, it's not possible to play that. That's some kind of a trick." And then I got to see him. Actually, I've seen him on TV, but I've seen him a few times at the trade show. He was always with Albert Lee, Steve Morse, and Eddie Van Halen. In that order. Albert would kick the song off, sing it, play it. Steve Morse would take it to, well, his thing, another level, and then Mr. Van Halen would come on and just take it to somewhere in the stratosphere, you know. So it was always cool, and every one of them was just as great as the other one. This was a stylistic difference that actually worked.
Well,
like the Telecaster.
Yeah. I'd feel bad actually if I didn't throw these last two in there. Django Reinhardt.
Unimaginable.
And the final one, I promise this will be the final one. Alan Holdsworth.
Large hands that nobody else can play what he plays.
Yeah. Awesome.
He has hands like an orangutan.
Yeah.
Like Tal Farlow.
Yeah.
Tal Farlow had the hugest hands that I've ever shook. Alan's a genius. It's scary. John McLaughlin. Yeah, I mean, guys like that, it's just like, they must have came from another planet somewhere out there. So,
Yeah, it's all just so modern. It's influences that obviously I understand those influences, but yeah, the influences that I'm really into now are all the guys that we talked about there. It's the Merles, it's the Chets, it's the Jimmy Bryant, it's the Hank Garland, it's the country and the gospel and the western swing, and yeah, that for me, still I can't ever see a time where that music doesn't grab me. So yeah, Alan doesn't fall into that.
The thing about heavy metal, is always appreciated the singing, but the songs never did really knock me.
Yeah, okay.
And a guy asked me one time, and he's a fantastic guitar player. He's wrote books, and I had a huge following out in LA playing a show, and he's playing this more avant-garde type jazz type stuff. A man named Joe DiOria.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know Joe's playing.
And we sat down and talked after the smoke settled, and he said, what side of your brain do you think that you're drawing from? And I said, well, I hope both. I don't know. So I know what he's asking me, technical or an emotional side of it.
Yep.
If I would have to draw from one of those, I would have to say more of an emotional side to it.
Yeah.
A song doesn't have to be complicated for me to like it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I get that just from watching you play and then asking you to play the things that you've just played. The moment you've played them, they're gone. You're not playing arrangements. You're not playing things that you've pre-planned. You're going with the flow and seeing where the music takes you. And yeah, you can only do that when it's about the music rather than the technique. So yeah.
Right. The technique is just icing on the cake. The cake is the song.
Yeah.
And the way you present the song and your backing that you have to play the song is a big factor. There's so many factors in selling commercial music. And so, I mean, I've always looked at it like that.
Okay, cool. So one last thing, a closing thought. As I say, anybody that's interested in learning some of the ridiculous things that Scotty's doing, you can hit him up for Skype lessons. The information for that is in the description below the video. Scotty, do you have any closing advice for anybody out there in their guitar and music journey?
Yeah, if you're a young guitarist and you really want to make it, marry you a woman that will work. And have a good backup job. All joking aside, no, follow your dreams, and work as hard as you can, because when you're young, you have more energy to practice. When you get older, you know, it just happens to where you don't practice as much. You got other things to do, but dig down hard and just keep playing it and strive to have something a little different.
Yeah,
that's what my dad imposed on me, because I could play a lot of the Chet, Jerry Reed type stuff back then, and him being a player himself said, hey, you know, that's great, but I could take you to any big city and anywhere, and somebody could be able to do that.
Yeah.
You have to put your own stamp on it.
Okay.
So he really impressed upon me to try to do something. I don't care if you omit something, add something, do something to it that can make that song yours. A little Jimmy Bryant, if you got a few licks of those, throw something in it that Chet didn't put in it, that Jerry Reed didn't put in it.
Find your voice. Find your song.
Different ideals together.
Yeah.
And at some point in guitar players' lives, they have to quit listening to other guitar players. I know that's not good for business.
Yeah.
But you need to listen to other instruments, you know, and gather all, you know, that you can from other guitar players. But there's a wide variety of things you can learn from piano players and everything else, but learn everything from guitar players you can. Can't do how they do it, I always use James Burton as an example. He told me, he said, I love that Chet sound, but I just couldn't play it. So he puts steel picks on here and comes up with his own ideas, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the deal. You feel like you can't do it. If you can do part of it, make it fit into your genre of how you play.
Okay. It's good advice. Yeah. Find your own sound and
All useful, you know.
develop something that is unique to you. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. Hopefully you got something very interesting out of this. It's been fun for me to sit and watch Scotty, and hopefully he's enjoyed showing you some of his tricks. As I say, the best way for you to develop these things will be to hit up Scotty for a Skype lesson. Information below. He's the best of the best. It's not everybody gets the chance to sit down and learn from someone as good as Scotty. So if you can, take that chance, send him an email. I'm sure you'll enjoy yourself. While I have you, I would just like to thank all of my patrons over on Patreon. If you would like to join us over there, you can do so by clicking this button up here. You can subscribe to my channel by clicking this button down here, and there's 2 more videos over here. One will be mine and one will be a link to something of Scotty's, so you can find out more about his unbelievable playing and musicality. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if not, I promise you, let me know and I will give you your money back. Peace out, guys, and see you again soon. Bye.